turned into an Escher diagram.
It was, horrible.
You can edit all that out as well.
Anyway, ho, ho, ho. Enjoy Merry Christmas.
I feel sorry for is that the listeners couldn't see the hand movements during those anecdotes. Yes. Actually, they were priceless.
Who wants to go next? Rachel?
So in 2021, August the 23rd, the PSNC Pharmaceutical Services Negotiating Committee announced that the new medicine service was going to be expanded across to some different conditions, and also across a wider range of conditions, although they still haven't included mental health. But they did include glaucoma and gout, both of which I talked extensively about the need for adherence support in patients, because I'd spent time with patient support groups. And then also that the NMS is going to be extended to carers, because lots of time it's the partner or a carer who's looking after adherence. And also I've done a lot of research in the past in adherence to medicines in long-term conditions in children and adolescents, and it's the parents and guardians that have to they're very involved in the medicines taking. So the fact that the new medicine service that I was involved in the original work in for the pre-pilot, that we published this RCT that just died in a journal for 10 years because nobody thought that, I was told that nobody would ever fund community pharmacists to carry out a non-supply clinical service. And so we just buried our clinical trial and our economic evaluation in a journal. And then 10 years later, all of a sudden, we were asked to update our analyses for a budget impact analysis with the Department of Health, because they were going to launch the new medicine service. And then, which they did without piloting, by the way. And then we did a trial which showed that despite no piloting, despite very little training, pharmacists actually did improve medicines adherence in people who were starting a new long-term condition, but only in 4 conditions that were randomly selected by somebody
Boris.
in the Department of Health. It was pre-Boris. I think it was Jeremy Hunt. And then because the principles of NMS were cross-therapeutic, they've actually now listened and extended it. And I know it's not perfect, and I know it's got issues, but it's an evidence-based service that demonstrates that community pharmacists contribute to patient health, and hopefully they're going to be looking at piloting mental health through the Pharmacy Integration Fund. And also it's going to help develop community pharmacy as part of a service model that's more fully integrated into wider primary care. So this was really important to me this year, because I felt like it was just something that I'd been involved in right from the start, right back from the late 90s, and we'd lived through the wilderness years.
Yeah, brilliant.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
And you should be congratulated for that, because my understanding is that 10% improvement in adherence, that has never been shown in any other sort of intervention. It's virtually impossible to show an improvement in adherence, and it was a 10% improvement in adherence. Is that right? Because I negotiated that. I worked for NHS employees at the time, and I negotiated that part into the contract originally. And I don't think there's ever been a study since that has demonstrated that sort of improvement. Is that right, Rachel?
Well, it's a behavioural intervention. And if you got a 10% improvement in smoking cessation or diet or alcohol, you'd be absolutely jumping with joy. And so this is actually a very good improvement in behaviour. We then also did a 6-month follow-up, and it was virtually the same at 6 months, which I was really surprised at, that, if you actually catch people when they start their medicine and help them early on, then they carry on, and it makes a difference long term. There aren't that many interventions in adherence that are that require so little support and don't involve multiple professionals and apps that are able to produce a 10% improvement in adherence. And 10% doesn't sound very much, but it's another 10 people out of 100 taking their antihypertensive, etc.
Or suppository.
Sorry, Mark, this is England.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We don't shove things up our bum except for fun.
Let me jump in. Yes, we continue the French theme. Let me jump in. And for those that want to find out more about Rachel's research, you can meet Rachel after the show.
Can I go next? Because mine kind of follows on from that.
And you're worried we're gonna run out of time? Yes, go on.
And Rachel may say this is wrong, but I think what she's just described there is all about person-centered care involving people in decisions about their choices about whether to take medicines or not. So my highlight of the year has to be the NICE shared decision-making guideline and the publication of that, encouraging shared decision-making with people across all interventions, but in particular in our sphere of interest, medicines. And I think it's only a guideline. It doesn't change practice, and it's only the start of the journey on that. But I think it's a really good start, and it's getting people talking about shared decision making. It's getting people thinking that this needs to be the norm, not the exception. And I think it's really good. And there was a paper last week that I think it's my paper of the year so far. Jamie, I don't know if you've read it. It's called "I'm Not the Doctor, I'm Just the Patient." And it's about patient agency. And they looked at various consultations that have been recorded and analysed them, analysed the conversations that went on between the physician and the patient. And that's absolutely fascinating in terms of the patient's role in conversations and all those sorts of things. And there's lots and lots for us to learn about that. So I'm sure Lelly will agree with me on that, because I know she's more passionate than I am about shared decision making, and that's saying a lot.
Very good. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you,
I'd just
Jonathan.
like to follow on from that as well. And mine has got to be the National Overprescribing Review Report. I think is the best thing that happened to pharmacy, is the best thing that happened to patients. In fact, if I could change it, I would call it the good for you, good for us, good for everybody report. Because I just think there's something for everybody to do. And I think what I like about the document is because it takes the medicines out of overprescribing, and it really opens the way for everybody to be involved with medicines. It talks about, there's something in there that I remember speaking about, which was about other people being able to do medicines reconciliation, which until now has been only just pharmacists, and something we've done locally and really makes a big difference, especially when people are transitioning from one care setting to another. Also, going back to what Jonathan was saying, it's just saying, look, don't start anything without talking to me first. Don't stop anything without talking to me first. And don't continue anything without talking to me first. It's so simple. And I think this could really be the best thing that happened for medicines. I think there are so many wins that we could do now. And I think in the next 5 years, there's still going to be lots and lots. It just takes, medicine safety. It takes medicines optimization. It takes cutting down unnecessary medicines, and it takes health inequalities. There's so much there about, deprived people taking more than normal, old people taking more than normal, Asian people taking more medicines than normal. And I think if we really do what it says, I reckon that, it's going to be a win for the NHS. There's so many things we wouldn't have to do, because if you do a decent medication review with a patient involved, I think it's going to be just amazing. All the things we would be doing, and we would have all the people who are not taking their atorvastatin stopping, and those who need to take it will kind of be in agreement as well. There's a lot for social prescribers to do. There's a lot for, relatives to do, and for patients in particular. So, I really hope, I'm looking forward to next year. I've been around talking about it. I've read all 85 pages so many times. I can see everything about it. I have all the key points, and I'm just going around telling people about it. So I'm excited about it.
And we chatted about that with the episode with Chris Martin, wasn't it? It was Chris Martin, wasn't it, Steve? I think
well, we talked about
episode,
the Aural Apothecary is an advocate for all of these things.
Yeah, what Lelly just said. Yeah.
Yeah, and we chatted about shared decision making. And I was just going to say, just to anyone out there who hasn't looked at that shared decision making, do the training. There's a training module on there. And it doesn't take that long, and it's not that in depth. You can go deeper into it if you want, but it's one of those things that I think if every healthcare professional did that training, then the world would be a better place.
Very good, very good. Thank you. Who hasn't? Sam and Claire. Sam.
Thank you. So mine was coming back to a kind of a personal achievement for, well, a team achievement for the year, which was for pharmacy technicians of colour. So I think we've spoken a lot tonight. So the research that you talked about, Rachel, I think the fact that we're talking about medicines reconciliation, all of this stuff often centres on pharmacists, and that's where the research is. So what we need to do is involve pharmacy technicians more in that research so that we can show the economic benefits from us being involved, and also show that we are also pharmacy professionals who can deliver this shared decision making, the patient consultations with patients at the centre of it. And I've digressed slightly because I was talking about pharmacy technicians of colour. So that is a group of 4 of us who have put together a kind of a platform where we are celebrating pharmacy technicians of colour. And that's because people had come to us and felt that they didn't have a voice. And so this year has been a year of kind of raising our voices and kind of getting recognition. So we've worked alongside NHSE for the roundtable discussions with the RPS and APT UK, and kind of got our name out there as being people who want to fight to prevent health inequalities and inequalities in the system for pharmacy technicians of colour in particular, but also raising awareness of equality, diversity and inclusion issues, specifically for pharmacy technicians. But we invite everybody to that conversation because it's everybody's responsibility. So I think that's been huge. So I wanted to mention it here just to raise that voice even further and invite people to come along to any of the events that we have, because it's about improving health for all, really, because as we hear from NHS staff survey and also from workforce race equality standards, how our staff are treated, how people are treated within the NHS and more generally in the workforce has an effect and an impact on our patients. So this is just one way that you can support to make things better.
That's fantastic, Sam. A really great achievement. Well done.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam. Well said. Claire?
So I think my highlight, just carrying on from the shared decision-making theme, Steve, Zoe Girdis and myself teach on the polypharmacy action learning sets. And the clinicians come on that, and what they want from us is an algorithm that tells them how to stop every single medicine. And we take them on a journey over 3 sessions. And by the end, when you've kept pummeling away that the answer is, you ask the person in front of you what's important to you. And from then you will work out what medicines you need to be prescribing with that patient. And when you see the penny drop, and we've now taken over 200 clinicians through that process, it is kind of life affirming. And we've just put together all the evaluations of all of that. We've done a formal evaluation, but we collect what they say. And I sat the other afternoon and read all of them, and it was absolutely life affirming. It was like, okay, we set off on this crazy mission, the 3 of us, to try and do something. We'd no idea whether we were doing something sensible. But when you read this is GPs and pharmacists, what they felt when they came out the other side, which is largely about confidence to start tackling overprescribing, stop medicine safely, it has been, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the best things I've ever been involved in. And this year we've just done more and more of it. So hopefully next year we might get a chance to do a little bit more than that.
Just to comment on that, so that the paper that I mentioned about patient agency, if you've not read it, Claire, have a read of it. I think it could be transformational for that sort of thing that you're talking about. Just giving people the agency, the authority, if you like, to have a decision that involves them.
But clinicians are so scared of opening a can of worms. They have a sort of if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality to the medicines. And actually, we've got to show people this is doable. And not only is it doable, it's better for you, for them, as Lelly was just saying.
Yeah, exactly.
As somebody that works in adherence research, this is music to my ears. So the whole point of the new medicine service, and I think it actually gets lost in the delivery, is that patients should set the agenda. And when we started running the trial, we found that some pharmacists were sort of saying, you need to adhere to this because if you don't, you'll have a heart attack. And actually, that wasn't the point of the NMS. The NMS is to say, how are you getting on with your medicines? What problems are you having? And then the patient would set the agenda and you would let the patient tell you what the problems were. And the issue there was that, non-adherence is a socially non-desirable activity. So if you go to your GP and he says, how many units of alcohol do you drink a week? You know the limit's 14 for a woman, so you say 10. And, so if he says, are you taking your statin? You say yes. But actually you may not be because, you Googled online that atorvastatin gives people various side effects.
And it's the most prescribed medicine in America.
That's true. And I think that